Rain hammered against the glass walls of the penthouse on Central Park West, painting silver trails down the skyline. Inside, Olivia Carter stood barefoot on the marble floor, one hand clutching her swollen belly, the other trembling as she faced the man who had once promised her the world. Mason Hale, Manhattan's golden billionaire, towered over her. His shirt still crisp from the evening gala, his cufflinks, Cartier. Gold gleamed under the chandelier. "You embarrass me tonight," he spat, his voice cold as steel. "In front of clients, in front of investors." "I didn't say anything wrong," Olivia whispered. Her voice cracked under the weight of fear. "I only told them the truth about the foundation, about the children's hospital." Mason slammed his glass onto the table, shards exploding like gunfire. "You are nothing without me. Don't forget who made you." The sound echoed across the penthouse. Outside, lightning flashed, illuminating the bruise on Olivia's wrist, old, fading, but never forgotten. "I just want peace, Mason," she said softly. "We're going to be a family. Please, don't do this tonight." He laughed low, cruel. "Family? Don't fool yourself, Olivia. You're just another project that went wrong." Then he stepped closer. Too close. She could smell the bourbon on his breath. He reached out, gripping her arm hard enough to draw a gasp from her throat. "You're lucky anyone still sees you as Mrs. Hale," he hissed. "You'll sign those divorce papers tomorrow and disappear quietly, or I'll make you wish you had." Her back hit the edge of the marble counter. Panic spiked through her chest. She tried to twist away, but Mason's hand shoved harder. The world spun a blur of lights, glass, and pain. A sickening crack followed. Her body hit the floor, the wine bottle toppled, and a pool of red spread across the white marble. For a moment, she couldn't breathe. Then the warmth of her blood mixed with something far more devastating. "Mason," she gasped, clutching her stomach. "The baby." He froze. Just for a heartbeat, his face flickered fear, then calculation. He turned, grabbing his phone. "Get the car ready." "Now," he ordered the driver. His tone was icy calm, rehearsed. She fell. "You understand?" She fell. Tears streamed down Olivia's face as he crouched beside her, pretending to help. His fingers brushed her hair back gently, the same hands that had just pushed her. "Everything's fine," he murmured. "Accidents happen." But his eyes, his cold, shark eyes, never once looked at her, only at the blood staining his imported rug. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance. Mason leaned close, whispering so low she barely heard. "Say one wrong word, Olivia, and I'll make sure your brother loses everything." Her vision blurred. The lights of Manhattan turned into floating stars. Her fingers reached toward the broken glass, tracing the reflection of her own face, pale, terrified, disbelieving. Then everything went dark. And somewhere in the silence, the heartbeat of her unborn child stopped forever. The world returned in fragments: white lights, antiseptic air, muffled voices. Olivia Carter opened her eyes to find herself in a hospital room draped in soft beige curtains, her body sore, her throat dry as dust. The steady beep of the heart monitor was the only thing tethering her to consciousness. Then she realized there was no second heartbeat, no soft rhythm of life beside hers. Her hand instinctively moved to her stomach. Flat, empty. The truth hit like ice water. The baby was gone. The door opened. Mason walked in, immaculate as ever, wearing a dark tailored suit, his expression composed, almost bored. He carried a small Tiffany box tied with a white ribbon. "You're awake," he said calmly, setting the box on the bedside table. "That's good. The doctors say you'll recover quickly." Olivia stared at him, her eyes hollow. "Recover?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "They told me, our baby." He cut her off. "It was an accident." His tone carried no trace of grief, no tremor of remorse. "You tripped. You fell. That's what happened. And that's what everyone will know." "Mason," she pleaded, tears spilling. "Please don't do this. You know it wasn't." He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Don't say another word. There are reporters outside. I've already taken care of the hospital bill, the doctors, the PR. You just need to rest and keep your mouth shut." Olivia flinched. "You paid them to lie?" He smiled thinly. "I paid them to protect our reputation." As he spoke, the door opened again. A doctor in her 50s entered, her expression professionally neutral. "Mrs. Hale," she began, eyes flicking briefly toward Mason. "You had a severe fall that caused placental abruption. You're stable now, but the baby couldn't be saved." Olivia burst into tears. The doctor hesitated, almost sympathetic, but Mason's gaze turned sharp. She cleared her throat and added mechanically, "It appears accidental." When she left, Mason slipped an envelope onto the counter. "For your discretion," he murmured to the nurse. The woman nodded quickly, avoiding Olivia's eyes. The Tiffany box glimmered under the fluorescent light. Olivia opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was a diamond bracelet. No note, just a glittering, soulless apology. Her grief twisted into anger. "You can't buy this away," she hissed. "You killed our child." For the first time, his expression cracked. He leaned down, whispering near her ear. "Careful what you say. You're emotional. People forgive women who cry, not women who accuse." Then he placed a stack of documents on her tray. "You'll sign these once you're discharged. A quiet divorce, no press, no scandal. You'll get your share, a house in Connecticut, a monthly allowance. And you'll forget everything." She shook her head violently. "Never." He sighed, straightening his tie. "Think of Daniel. His little cybersecurity company? One call from me, and he'll never work in this city again." Her heart clenched. He knew exactly where to strike. Hours later, when the room was dark and quiet, Olivia stared at the bracelet again. Its diamonds sparkled like tiny cages around her wrist. She slipped it off and dropped it into the trash bin. In the silence, her phone buzzed a message from an unknown number. "He paid them all. Don't sign anything. Trust no one." Her breath caught. She typed shakily, "Who is this?" No reply came. Outside the window, the city lights of Manhattan blinked cold and indifferent. Somewhere out there, Mason was already crafting his next press statement, smiling for the cameras, acting like a grieving husband. Olivia turned toward the empty pillow beside her and whispered, "I'll make him pay." But in the hallway, unseen, a hospital guard watched her room taking orders from Mason Hale himself. Rain had turned Manhattan into a mirror of blurred lights when Daniel Carter's phone buzzed at midnight. One message from his sister. "I need you. Don't call. Come now." Bull. He left his Brooklyn apartment without even locking the door. His old Toyota roared through the slick streets, headlights cutting through the fog. Every red light felt like a lifetime. When he reached the Hale penthouse on Central Park West, 2 security guards blocked the entrance. "Mrs. Hale is resting," one said flatly. Daniel showed his military ID, his voice cold. "Then tell her brother Daniel Carter is here. And if you don't, I'll call NYPD and tell them why you're guarding a crime scene." A tense silence. Then, reluctantly, they let him in. The elevator ride was endless. When the doors opened, the smell of disinfectant and stale alcohol hit him. The place looked spotless, too spotless. Someone had scrubbed away the blood. But Daniel had worked in military forensics. He saw what others missed. Faint stains on the rug, a cracked corner on the marble counter, a shattered glass still wedged under the sofa leg. He found Olivia sitting by the window, wrapped in a hospital blanket. Her face pale, her eyes red and hollow. "Liv." His voice broke. She turned, forcing a small smile. "You shouldn't have come." "The hell I shouldn't," he said, kneeling beside her. "What happened?" She hesitated. "It was an accident," she whispered automatically, then flinched at her own words. "No, it wasn't." Daniel's jaw tightened. He glanced around. "Where is he?" "At his office. He said I should rest." Her voice trembled. "He's watching, Danny. He has people here." Daniel looked up and noticed a small black dot in the corner ceiling. A micro camera. He walked to it, stood on a chair, and ripped it out. The red light blinked once, then died. "Not anymore," he said. She sobbed, covering her face. "He killed our baby, and he made me sign papers. I don't even know what they were." 2. Daniel wrapped his arms around her carefully, like she might shatter. "We're going to fix this, but we do it the right way. No violence, no mistakes. We'll take him down clean." He reached into his bag, pulling out his iPad and a small portable drive. Years of cybersecurity work had given him instincts sharper than most detectives. He began scanning the penthouse network router, NAS storage, internal cameras. His screen flickered to life. "What are you doing?" she asked weakly. "Finding what he thinks he deleted." Within minutes, he found a partially erased video file. Date: the night of the accident. Timestamp gaps: 3 missing minutes. Someone had tampered with it. But another log caught his eye. The technician who accessed the building's CCTV that same night. Maintenance request: Mason Hale authorized. Daniel's stomach turned. He copied everything. Suddenly, Olivia's phone buzzed again. "Same unknown number. He's tracking you. Don't trust anyone from the hospital." Daniel frowned. "Who keeps sending these?" She shook her head. "I don't know. But they know things only Mason's people should." He looked out the window. Manhattan glittered like a field of broken promises. He turned back to his sister, voice steady. "Pack a bag. You're not staying here another night." Olivia hesitated. "If I leave, he'll come after you." "He already will." Daniel smiled grimly, unplugging the router. "Let him try." As they stepped into the elevator, a red notification flashed on his iPad. "System breach detected. External access. Hale Corp admin." Mason had just logged in. Daniel glanced at his sister and whispered, "He knows we're here." By morning, the rain had stopped, leaving Manhattan polished and cruelly bright. Daniel and Olivia sat inside a small cafe on Fifth Avenue, its windows steaming from the rush hour crowd. Olivia wore a hoodie and sunglasses, her hospital bracelet still clinging to her wrist. She hadn't spoken since they left the penthouse. Daniel stirred his black coffee, eyes scanning the street. "We can't go to the police yet," he said quietly. "He owns half the city's lawyers. We need proof that can't be buried." Olivia looked out at the traffic. "How do we find proof against a man who buys silence for breakfast?" He leaned forward, lowering his voice. "By talking to the people he pays to keep quiet." That afternoon, Daniel headed toward Hale Tower Mason's 40-story glass fortress on Park Avenue. Dressed in his old navy jacket and jeans, he blended into the maintenance crowd. In the lobby, he spotted a security guard on break, a tired man in his 40s with a badge reading R. Miller. Daniel approached casually, holding a Starbucks cup. "Hey, Miller, right? You work the night shift sometimes?" "Who's asking?" "Someone who knows what happened 2 nights ago. In the penthouse." The man's hand froze midair. His eyes flicked toward the cameras, then back at Daniel. "You need to leave." "I know you heard something," Daniel pressed. "A crash, maybe shouting. You don't have to protect him." Miller's jaw tightened. "You don't understand. He owns the company. People disappear for less." Gen 9. Daniel slid a folded card across the table, his cybersecurity firm's logo. "You have a daughter, right? High school age? What would you want someone to do if that man hurt her?" Miller's eyes softened just slightly. He pocketed the card. "I can't talk here. Come back tonight, same spot. Midnight." Daniel nodded, leaving his untouched coffee behind. Back at the safe apartment, Olivia sat on the couch, scrolling through news headlines. Philanthropist Mason Hale heartbroken after wife's miscarriage. A photo of him holding her hand outside the hospital flashed across the screen. The world already believed his lie. She threw the phone across the room. "He's turning me into the villain." Daniel knelt to pick it up. "Then we rewrite the story with facts." He connected his iPad to the building logs. The data he'd copied from the penthouse showed timestamps that matched the night of the assault, except one entry labeled "Camera Reset, 11:42 p.m. Authorized by M. Hale." There it was proof of tampering. But without the footage itself, it was only suspicion. As night fell, Daniel left again, promising he'd be careful. Olivia watched from the window until his silhouette disappeared into the Manhattan crowd. For a moment, she thought she saw someone watching from across the street, a man in a dark coat with a Bluetooth earpiece. At midnight, Daniel met Miller in the alley behind the building. The guard's face was pale under the streetlight. He handed Daniel a folded maintenance invoice. "That's the guy who wiped the footage. He works for Hale's IT contractor. Name's Ben Soto." Before Daniel could thank him, Miller added, "You didn't hear it from me. They monitor everything." B. Daniel slipped the paper into his pocket. But as he walked away, his phone buzzed with an unknown text. "You shouldn't have talked to him." He froze. The message came from his own company's server. Mason had hacked his system. He looked up and saw a black SUV parked across the street, engine idling. Inside, behind tinted windows, a silhouette lifted a phone to his ear. Mason Hale was watching. And he was already planning his next move. The following morning, the city glimmered like nothing had happened. But Olivia Carter's world was a quiet storm. She sat inside a dim office on Lower Manhattan's Lexington Avenue, facing a woman in a tailored gray suit. Nora Stein's sharp eyes, perfect posture, reputation for being the best domestic violence attorney in the city. Daniel sat beside his sister, exhaustion lining his face. "We have evidence Mason tampered with security footage. A technician named Ben Soto handled the deletion. I also have network logs." Nora nodded thoughtfully, fingers steepled. "If this is true, we can file for an emergency restraining order and secure a data preservation order. But Mason Hale, he's not just wealthy. He's connected. Everything you do will be watched." Olivia's voice was barely audible. "He already watches everything." Nora leaned forward, her tone softening. "Then we'll make sure he doesn't see this coming." She slid a confidentiality form across the table. "Sign this, both of you. Nothing leaves this room. I'll start the motion today." Olivia hesitated, but Daniel gave her a reassuring nod. For the first time since the accident, hope flickered in her chest. After the meeting, they stepped into the crisp afternoon air. Daniel exhaled. "She's good. We might finally have someone on our side." Olivia tried to believe it. That night, Nora worked late in her office. Her assistant had gone home, leaving only the faint hum of the city outside. She poured herself a glass of wine and opened her laptop. A message blinked on the screen. "Payment received. Delete the Hale case tomorrow. Keep them calm until Friday. MH." Her hand trembled slightly. She closed the laptop, took a sip of wine, and whispered, "It's just business." The next day, Nora called Olivia. "Good news. I've spoken to a clerk at the Supreme Court. We can expedite your filing, but I'll need Mason's medical report and the incident summary." Olivia frowned. "Medical report? He wasn't injured." "It's procedure," Nora replied smoothly. "Just a formality." But Daniel's instinct screamed. After he hung up, he checked the case database through his secure portal. There was no motion filed under Olivia's name, nothing at all. Nora had lied. He raced to her office, heart pounding. The receptionist stopped him at the door. "I'm sorry, Mr. Carter. Miss Stein's in a meeting." "With who?" The woman hesitated. "Mr. Hale." Daniel's blood went cold. He pushed past and flung open the conference room door. Inside, Nora sat across from Mason Hale, sipping espresso like they'd been friends for years. A contract lay between them, Mason's Mont Blanc pen gliding across the signature line. Nora's face blanched. "Daniel." Mason smirked. "You should have knocked, soldier." Daniel grabbed the papers, scanning the top line. "Confidential settlement agreement, Olivia Carter." His sister's name. Her silence. Her freedom sold. "You paid her?" Daniel snarled. Nora stood, voice shaking now. "You don't understand. He would have destroyed my firm." Daniel's fists clenched. "You just traded my sister's life for your comfort." Mason rose calmly, adjusting his cufflinks. "Tell Olivia the deal's still open. She can take the money, or I'll take everything else she loves." Daniel's voice was a low growl. "You made one mistake, Mason. You think everyone has a price." Mason's smile thinned. "And you think you're the hero. We'll see." As security dragged Daniel out, Nora whispered, "I'm sorry." Outside, Daniel's phone buzzed again, another anonymous text. "He bought her. Get out now. There's a warrant coming for you." Daniel looked up, sirens echoing in the distance. Mason's trap had already begun to close. Olivia Carter woke to the sound of pounding on her door. The morning sun had barely crept over the Manhattan skyline when uniformed officers entered her small rented apartment. "Mrs. Hale," one of them asked curtly, "we have a warrant to search the premises. You're being investigated for obstruction of justice and tampering with evidence." Her breath caught. "What? That's impossible." Daniel rushed out from the kitchen, hands raised. "She didn't do anything. This is her husband's doing." The officer didn't flinch. You can tell that to your lawyer. We have court authorization. Shen. Within minutes, they tore through drawers, taking laptops, hard drives, and Daniel's iPad, the one holding the footage logs. Olivia's heart sank. Their proof was gone. As the officers left, a neighbor peeked from the hallway, phone raised to record. Within hours, the video was online. Pregnant socialite accused of framing billionaire husband, the headline read. Mason's PR team worked fast. Olivia's phone exploded with messages, reporters, ex-colleagues, even family friends. Is it true? Did you fake the fall? Mason looks devastated. By noon, her name trended on Twitter. Comment sections called her unstable, manipulative, gold-digging. Every word cut deeper than the last. Daniel slammed the laptop shut. He's winning the narrative. He's winning everything, Olivia whispered. Her voice was hollow. They met that evening in a quiet diner near Union Square. Olivia kept her hood up, sunglasses on, afraid of being recognized. Daniel's contact, the night guard Miller, had agreed to meet them. But as the minutes ticked by, he didn't show. Finally, Daniel's phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. He knows Miller talked. Don't come back to Hale Tower. Daniel's stomach twisted. Miller's in danger. At that exact moment, a news alert flashed on the diner's TV. Security guard found dead in Midtown garage, apparent suicide. Olivia dropped her spoon. Her hands trembled violently. No, she whispered. No, he wouldn't. Daniel's jaw locked. Mason killed him. The waitress came by, setting down 2 refills of coffee. Rough day? She asked kindly. Olivia forced a smile, but her tears betrayed her. The woman leaned closer. Don't let them break you, sweetheart. She slipped a folded napkin onto the table and walked away. When Olivia unfolded it, her pulse quickened. Inside was a phone number and one line. She helped me once. Trust her. N.S. Nora Stein. The corrupt lawyer. Could she be reaching out again? Don't, Daniel warned. She's working for him. Olivia stared at the number, conflicted. What if she's scared? What if she wants to fix what she did? Before Daniel could answer, his phone buzzed again, this time from his company's emergency server. The message was simple. Hale Corp breached your firewall. Your data is gone. His chest tightened. He's erasing everything. Olivia leaned back in the booth, drained. He took our proof, our names, even our friends. What's left? Daniel looked at her, eyes fierce. Us. And the truth. She shook her head. Truth. Doesn't matter when you're poor, and he's powerful. But Daniel wasn't listening. He'd pulled out a flash drive from his jacket, the one he'd hidden days ago. I made one backup. It's not much, but it's enough to hurt him. Olivia exhaled shakily, her eyes finding a glimmer of hope. Then we fight. Outside, thunder rolled again over Manhattan. But this time, the storm wasn't coming for them. It was coming for Mason Hale. Because somewhere deep in his empire of lies, a single crack had just begun to form. Night fell over Manhattan like smoke, curling through the canyons of glass and steel. Daniel Carter sat by the window of the small apartment they now shared, his laptop glowing in the dark. Olivia lay on the couch, exhausted, a half-eaten sandwich untouched beside her. Outside, sirens moaned faintly, the city breathing like a restless animal. They had nothing left except that small flash drive their last thread of truth. Daniel's email pinged. A new message appeared, subject line. We need to talk. I can help you. Alana Pierce. He frowned. Who's Alana Pierce? Olivia stirred. Wait, that name. She used to be Mason's PR consultant. The one who vanished last year after some scandal. Daniel opened the message cautiously. It read, I worked for him. I know what he did to you. Meet me tomorrow, 9 p.m. The Ritz-Carlton bar. Don't bring police. Don't tell anyone. He hesitated. It could be a trap. Olivia's eyes filled with quiet determination. Or she could be the only one brave enough to help. The next evening, the Ritz-Carlton glimmered like a palace of gold and shadows. Olivia wore a long coat and scarf to hide her face, while Daniel scanned every corner, his instincts sharp. The air smelled of expensive perfume and secrets. At the far end of the bar, a woman with auburn hair sat alone, stirring her martini. She looked up as they approached. Her beauty was striking, but her eyes were haunted. Alana Pierce. Daniel asked. She nodded. You're Olivia Carter, right? I saw what he did to you in the news. He's done worse. Olivia swallowed hard. You worked for him. I did, Alana said, her voice trembling slightly. I was supposed to manage his image. He paid me to silence women, edit press releases, fake photos. But when I got pregnant, he didn't pay me to disappear. He forced me to. Her eyes glistened. He said one more headline would ruin his empire. Daniel's fists clenched. You're saying he? Yes. He made me end it. Alana's voice cracked. And I have proof. Recordings, payments, everything. I hid them before I ran. Olivia's heart pounded. Then why contact us now? Alana leaned closer. Because he's scared. He thinks I'm dead. Daniel frowned. Then how do we get the files? She reached into her clutch and slid over a small hotel keycard. Storage locker under a fake name. Penn Station. Everything you need is inside, but be careful. He's watching me again. If he finds out I talked, he'll kill me. Before Daniel could respond, a flash went off across the room, a phone camera. A man in a suit lowered it quickly and walked away. Alana froze. He found us. They stood, but the man vanished into the elevator crowd. Panic surged. Daniel pocketed the keycard and grabbed Olivia's hand. Go, now. As they hurried toward the exit, Alana whispered, Penn Station. Locker 42C, hurry. Then she slipped into the women's restroom, disappearing into the crowd. Outside, the cold air sliced through them. Daniel pulled Olivia into a waiting taxi. She's risking her life for this, he muttered. Olivia stared out the window, watching the Ritz-Carlton's golden lights fade behind them. So are we. Centrain. They didn't notice the black Mercedes that pulled out moments later, following close behind. Inside, Mason Hale adjusted his cufflinks and said into his phone, She talked to them. Handle it. And by sunrise, one of those three names, Olivia, Daniel, or Alana, would disappear from the city's map. The next morning, the city woke to breaking news. Publicist Alana Pierce found dead in Las Vegas hotel, apparent suicide. Olivia dropped her coffee. The porcelain shattering on the floor. No, she whispered. She was fine last night. She said she was going to meet her sister. Daniel stared at the TV in disbelief. The footage showed police cars outside a hotel, yellow tape fluttering in the desert wind. He got to her first, he muttered. He's erasing every witness. Olivia pressed her palms to her face. She gave us the keycard. Maybe that's why she reached out. She knew this would happen. Daniel grabbed his jacket. Then we get whatever she left before he does. Vaughn. By afternoon, they were in Penn Station, blending into the blur of commuters. Daniel's cap was low, Olivia's scarf high. The noise, the smell of coffee, the announcements overhead, it all felt dizzying. Locker 42C sat near a maintenance corridor, worn and rusted. Daniel inserted the keycard, heart pounding. The lock clicked. Inside was a small gray envelope and a black USB drive taped to the back wall. He pocketed both quickly. We got it. You. But as they turned to leave, Daniel caught sight of two men in dark coats moving against the crowd, too focused, too synchronized. He grabbed Olivia's hand. Run. They darted through the crowd, weaving past travelers and coffee carts. The men followed. One shouted into a headset, Target in motion. Daniel shoved Olivia into a side exit, slamming through the emergency door. They burst into the street, alarms blaring behind them. Horns honked as they crossed 7th Avenue. Daniel spotted a yellow cab and waved frantically. Go, anywhere uptown, he shouted. The driver swore under his breath, but hit the gas. As the cab sped away, Olivia clutched the envelope. What's inside? Daniel tore it open carefully. Inside were printed emails, financial statements, and screenshots proof Mason paid doctors, lawyers, and media outlets to bury scandals. One email chilled them both. Payment confirmed. Terminate pregnancy discreetly. Do not contact me again. Signed, M. Hale. Olivia felt sick. He really did this to her. And to you, Daniel said grimly. This is enough to ruin him. But as he plugged the USB into his laptop, the screen flashed. Corrupted data. files encrypted. No, Daniel muttered, typing furiously. It's locked with an encryption key. Someone tried to destroy it remotely. Olivia stared out the window, fear creeping in. Then we can't use it? I can crack it, he said, determination hardening in his voice. But I'll need help. Shandin. From who? Daniel hesitated. There's a woman I know. Erin Walsh. Former prosecutor, she left the DA's office after Hale ruined her case. If anyone wants him destroyed more than we do, it's her. Olivia nodded slowly. Then let's find her. The cab stopped at a red light near Times Square. Daniel glanced out the window and froze. A digital billboard towered above the street, displaying a massive photo of Mason Hale beside the headline, "A husband's heartbreak. Billionaire vows justice for wife's false accusations." Olivia's chest tightened. The entire city was being fed his version of the story. The light turned green. They drove on in silence, the USB clutched in Daniel's hand like a lifeline. Behind them, in the shadow of the station, one of the men in dark coats picked up a phone. "They have the drive," he said coldly. On the other end, Mason Hale's voice was smooth as glass. "Then burn everything. And if they won't give it up, make sure they never use it." As the line went dead, a black SUV pulled out of the garage, heading straight for them. The black SUV had followed them for 6 straight blocks before Daniel told the driver to pull over. "Take the next left," he whispered. "Then stop at the corner and keep the meter running." Part 2. He and Olivia slipped out near an alley in Chelsea, the SUV rolling past like a silent predator. The moment it turned the corner, Daniel grabbed Olivia's hand. "We can't go home. We can't go anywhere he expects. He's tracking us." Olivia's breath came in shallow bursts. "Then where do we go?" He thought fast. "There's someone I can trust." They took the subway uptown, sitting far apart to avoid drawing attention. Olivia watched people scroll through their phones, some reading a headline with her face. "Sources confirm Olivia Hale manipulated husband for money." Every click, every glance, felt like a dagger. By dusk, they arrived in the Bronx, at a tiny bookstore that smelled of paper and rain. The owner, a middle-aged woman named Maria, greeted Daniel with a weary smile. "You look like you've been through hell." "Pretty close," Daniel muttered. "We need a place to stay for the night." "Shen," Maria nodded, locking the door behind them. "You can use the storage room upstairs. No cameras, no questions." That night, Olivia sat by the dusty window, clutching a steaming cup of coffee. For a moment, she allowed herself to breathe. But peace never lasted long. Daniel worked silently at the old desk, typing commands into his laptop, trying to decrypt the corrupted USB. Lines of code scrolled like rain. "It's tough," he said. "Whoever encrypted it knew what they were doing." "Jenbei, can Mason see what we're doing?" she asked. "Maybe," he admitted. "But I've rerouted everything through a ghost server. It'll buy us time." Olivia turned the bracelet Mason had once given her over in her hands. "Do you ever think justice actually exists?" Daniel looked up, his expression softening. "I used to believe justice was a system. Now I think it's just people doing what's right when no one's watching." Before she could respond, the lights flickered. Once. Twice. Then the screen on Daniel's laptop flashed red. "Intrusion detected. External access. Halicorp server." He swore under his breath. "He's inside the network again. Can he find us?" "Not yet, but if he traces the signal, yes." They moved fast. Daniel unplugged the laptop, shoved it and the drive into his bag. Maria appeared at the door, pale. "There's a man outside asking for you," she whispered. "He says he's from the police." Daniel's gut twisted. "Did he show ID?" She shook her head. "Just said he's looking for Olivia Hale." He peered through the blinds, black coat, earpiece, the same kind from Penn Station. "That's not NYPD." They slipped out through the back, running into the cold night. The alley smelled of oil and rain. Daniel spotted a delivery truck idling near the curb. He yanked the door open. "Get in," the driver shouted. "Hey." But Daniel tossed a 50 onto the seat. "Emergency." They sped off into the night, bouncing through puddles. Olivia's hands shook as she whispered, "He won't stop until we're gone." Daniel's jaw was steel. "Then we stop him first." He handed her a small notebook, his military journal. Inside were names, numbers, and one underlined contact. Erin Walsh, former DA. She's the one who can break this, he said, but she'll need to believe us first. As the truck disappeared into the city's endless maze, a black SUV rolled slowly past the bookstore. The man in the coat stepped out, scanning the street. Maria stood in the doorway, arms crossed. "They're gone," she said. He smiled faintly. "Everyone comes back eventually." And somewhere in the distance, Daniel's laptop pinged. Mason Hale had just activated Olivia's old hospital file. By the time Daniel and Olivia reached the Upper West Side, dawn was crawling across the skyline, painting the Hudson River in bruised gold. They stopped outside a narrow brownstone where a single brass nameplate read, "Erin Walsh, Esquire." Daniel knocked twice. A voice called from inside, sharp and wary. "If this is about Hale Corp, go away." "It's Daniel Carter," he said quickly. "You used to work for the district attorney's office. I know what he did to you." A pause. Then the lock clicked. The door opened a crack. Erin Walsh stood there in a wrinkled t-shirt, holding a mug of coffee and suspicion in her eyes. Her auburn hair was messy, her voice gravelly from too many late nights. "You've got 30 seconds, she said. Daniel handed her the gray envelope from Alana Pierce. "These documents prove Mason paid off doctors, lawyers, and media. He's cleaning house, killing anyone who talks." Erin's eyes flicked over the papers. "You're Olivia Carter." Olivia nodded, silent. Erin sighed, motioning them inside. The apartment was cluttered with files and empty Starbucks cups. On one wall hung a framed newspaper clipping. "Erin Walsh resigns after controversial case collapse." 3. "That collapse," she said bitterly, "was Mason Hale's doing. He bought a judge and buried my career." Daniel opened his laptop and plugged in the corrupted USB. "We need you to help decrypt this. It's the missing piece." Erin knelt beside him, scanning the code. AES 512 encryption, corporate grade. He's got hackers working for him. But she reached for a small black external drive. "I still have access to a few government tools. Let's see what he's hiding." Time. For 2 hours, they worked in tense silence while Olivia paced. Her fingers traced the edge of the Tiffany bracelet she'd retrieved from the trash, a bitter reminder of what Mason thought her worth. Suddenly, the screen flickered. A folder appeared. Halicorp Internal. Personal files. Inside were hundreds of audio memos. Erin clicked one. Mason's voice filled the room, cold and clear. "Make sure the hospital labels it as accidental. I don't need another scandal. She'll stay quiet if she knows what's good for her." Olivia froze. Her stomach turned. Daniel clenched his fists. "That's him. That's the night." Erin played another file. Mason speaking to Nora Stein. "You'll get your money when she signs. No signature, no payment. I want this done by Friday." Erin's eyes widened. "He bribed a licensed attorney to falsify court documents. That's felony obstruction." Daniel leaned closer. "Can you make this public?" "Not yet. If we leak it now, he'll claim it's fake. We need a verified chain of custody proof it came from his own system." Olivia spoke for the first time. "How?" Erin looked up at her. "By getting into Hale Corp's server directly. I still have an old access code from my investigation days. It'll only work once." Daniel frowned. "That's dangerous." Erin smirked. "Everything worth doing is." Before they could continue, Erin's computer screen blinked an incoming call from a private number. She hesitated, then answered. A distorted male voice said, "You have something that belongs to Mr. Hale. Return it, and no one gets hurt." Erin hung up immediately, face pale. "They found us." Daniel grabbed the hard drives, shoving them into his backpack. "We need to move." But as they reached the door, headlights flooded the street outside. 2 black SUVs idled silently. Erin whispered, "He's faster than I thought." Daniel pulled Olivia toward the back exit. "Basement now." They bolted down the narrow stairs, breath ragged, as shadows moved above them. Erin clutched the decrypted files to her chest and whispered, "This is enough to end him if we survive the night." Upstairs, the front door burst open, and Mason's men poured in. The sound of boots thundered across Erin Walsh's apartment. Daniel, Olivia, and Aaron crouched in the basement storage room, hearts pounding as muffled voices echoed overhead. Dust rained from the ceiling with each heavy step. "They're sweeping the place," Daniel whispered. 2, maybe 3 men. Aaron's grip tightened on the flash drive. "He won't stop until he has this back." Olivia shivered, clutching Daniel's arm. "We can't stay here." Daniel scanned the dim basement, an old window barely wide enough for a person. "That's our exit." He shoved aside paint cans and pried the window open. Cold November air rushed in. Aaron climbed out first, then Olivia, then Daniel last. They emerged into an alley behind the brownstone, the city still half asleep. The street was empty until a car engine roared to life at the corner. Headlights flared. "Run!" Daniel shouted. They sprinted down the alley, dodging trash bins and puddles. A gunshot cracked the air, shattering a glass sign above them. Olivia screamed as Daniel pulled her behind a parked van. Aaron fumbled for her phone. "I'm calling Jubai Ishii." "Don't." Daniel hissed. "They'll trace it. Mason owns cops, too." "Thor." "Then what?" she demanded. He scanned the block. The subway. 72nd Street Station. "We lose them underground." They dashed through the dawn streets, slipping into the station just as another bullet ricocheted off a streetlight. The turnstiles spun. Daniel swiped his Metro card, half-dragging Olivia through. The 3 of them stumbled onto the platform just as a downtown train screeched in. Daniel pushed them inside seconds before the doors closed. The train lurched forward, carrying them into darkness. Olivia leaned against the wall, gasping. "He's everywhere, Danny. He'll never let us go." Daniel rested a hand on her shoulder. "Then we stop running. We end this on our terms." Aaron nodded. "We still have one option. There's a federal agent who investigated Mason years ago. Agent Keller. He's been trying to prove financial fraud for a decade. If we can get him this drive, it'll open everything." Daniel frowned. "Can we trust him? He's the only one Mason couldn't buy." The train screeched to a halt at Grand Central. They stepped off, blending into the morning crowd. Olivia kept her hood low, eyes darting. Every man in a suit looked like a threat. Aaron led them through the terminal to a side exit. Keller's office is 5 blocks east, near Park Avenue. They hadn't gone 2 blocks before a black sedan pulled up fast. Daniel shoved Olivia into a convenience store doorway. "Go through the back," he yelled. One of the men jumped out, firing a silenced shot that shattered the glass door. Customers screamed and ducked. Daniel tackled the gunman, knocking the weapon away. Aaron grabbed a fire extinguisher and slammed it across the man's head. "Move," Daniel shouted. They tore through the store's back exit into another alley. Sirens wailed in the distance. Now someone must have called it in. Aaron clutched the drive, shaking. "He'll never forgive this." Daniel smirked grimly. "Good. Let him chase us into the daylight." By the time they reached Park Avenue, morning had fully broken. Glass towers glowed under the rising Sunday. Keller's office loomed ahead. But before they could reach it, a black SUV screeched across their path, blocking the sidewalk. Mason Hale stepped out, calm, immaculate, his smile razor-sharp. Olivia froze, her heart dropping to her knees. Mason adjusted his cufflinks and said softly, "You've made quite a mess, sweetheart." "How?" Daniel stepped in front of her. "It's over, Mason." Mason's smirk widened. "No, Daniel. It's just beginning." Then another SUV pulled up behind them, and from it stepped Agent Keller, badge raised. Everyone on the ground. For a moment, Manhattan froze in chaos. Sirens echoed down Park Avenue, commuters stopped mid-step, and wind whipped through the canyon of skyscrapers. Agent Keller's voice thundered, "FBI, drop your weapons." Mason's men hesitated, unsure whether to obey or fight. Mason, ever the performer, slowly raised his hands, flashing a polite, amused smile. "Agent Keller," he drawled, "you're wasting taxpayer money again, I see." Keller's tone was ice. "We've been watching your accounts for months. Fraud, bribery, witness tampering. You're done, Hale." Mason chuckled, smooth as silk. "You really think you can pin any of that on me?" Behind him, Daniel whispered to Aaron, "Now's our chance. Give him the drive." Aaron hesitated. "If we hand it over here, Mason will twist it in court before they can verify it." Keller turned slightly, signaling his agents to move in. But Mason took a step forward, his voice low and confident. Careful, agent. That file you're looking for, it's stolen federal data. Possessing it could get you suspended. Keller's eyes narrowed. You hacked government servers? Mason smiled. You can't prove that. But I can prove Daniel Carter did. His IP address traced straight to the breach last month. Olivia gasped. That's a lie. Is it? Mason said smoothly. Go ahead, Keller. Check your system. My attorney's already filed a report. Keller's phone buzzed. He glanced down and cursed. The report was real. Mason had framed Daniel first. 2 agents grabbed Daniel, forcing him to the ground. Daniel Carter, you're under arrest for unauthorized access to federal property. Olivia screamed. No, he's the victim, not him. Hold on. Keller hesitated, but his orders were clear. Mom, please stand back. Daniel looked up at his sister, eyes calm but defiant. Don't fight it, Liv. Just keep the drive safe. Erin clutched the flash drive tight, whispering, I'll get him out. I swear. Mason turned, smirking. Don't bother, he'll confess before the day's over. Keller shoved him toward the SUV. You're not going anywhere either, Hale. But Mason's phone buzzed again. He smiled faintly, holding it up. Actually, I am. Judge Whitmore just voided your warrant lack of probable cause. I believe you know her husband. One of my investors. Keller's jaw clenched. You son of a herd. Language agent. Mason brushed imaginary dust off his jacket. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a press conference to attend. My wife's been very sick, you see. All this stress. He glanced at Olivia with false pity. It's been so hard on her. He slid into his car, the door shutting like the end of a prayer. The convoy pulled away, leaving Keller's team stunned. Olivia ran to Daniel as they handcuffed him. You can't take him. He didn't do anything. Keller met her eyes. I believe you. But right now, my hands are tied. Mason played this perfectly. Daniel leaned close to his sister. Don't stop. You hear me? Go to Nora. Make her talk. Olivia nodded through tears as they drove him away. The streetlights blurred into streaks of white. Erin grabbed her arm. He's right. Nora Stein is the weak link. Mason paid her. She can flip this whole thing if we make her confess on record. Olivia wiped her tears. Then that's what we'll do. But as they turned to leave, Erin's phone buzzed. A new message appeared from an unknown number. You won't reach her in time. Attached was a photo Nora Stein's office, door wide open, and a woman's hand visible on the floor. Olivia's breath hitched. Oh my God, he's killing them all. Erin's voice broke into a whisper. Then we move faster. Because the only way to save Daniel now was to make the devil choke on his own lies. The elevator doors opened onto the 22nd floor of a midtown office building, where the gold plaque still read Nora Stein and Associates. The hallway was silent, except for the low hum of fluorescent lights. Erin Walsh and Olivia Carter stepped out carefully, their footsteps echoing off marble. A single police tape stretched across the office door. Erin ducked under it. Inside, the air smelled of metal and disinfectant. Nora's body had already been taken, but the outline of where she'd fallen was still faintly visible on the carpet. A wineglass lay shattered nearby. Olivia whispered, He made it look like suicide again. Erin nodded grimly. It's his pattern. Quiet, clean, believable. She crouched near Nora's desk, rifling through drawers. But Mason Hale always leaves fingerprints, not literal ones, digital ones. Olivia helped, searching the bookshelves. Behind a row of law journals, her hand brushed against a flash drive taped to the back panel. She pulled it free. What if this is what she tried to send us? Erin's pulse quickened. Only one way to find out. They plugged it into Erin's tablet. A folder opened instantly labeled Retainer Agreement. Hale Confidential. Inside were audio clips, invoices, and encrypted messages. One file was titled Call with MH. Erin tapped play. Mason's voice filled the air, casual, cold. Nora, just keep her calm until I'm in the clear. After that, you can make it look like she took the settlement by choice. If she talks, there are ways to silence her. You understand? Nora's voice, small and trembling. Yes, Mr. Hale. Olivia clapped a hand over her mouth. He planned everything. Aaron exhaled slowly. This recording alone proves conspiracy and witness intimidation. We can bring it to Keller, but first we make sure he can't bury it again. Par. She began uploading the file to 3 cloud servers simultaneously. If he tries to erase this, it'll still live somewhere. Just as the progress bar hit 80%, the lights flickered. Aaron froze. He's onto us. A loud crash came from the hallway boots, voices, closing in fast. Olivia's heart pounded. We have to go. Aaron yanked the drive out and stuffed it into her pocket. Back exit now. They ran through the corridor, pushing past filing cabinets and emergency lights. Behind them, men shouted, "Stop them!" Bullets shattered the glass wall. Olivia screamed as shards rained down. Aaron shoved her toward the stairwell. Go, go, go. They sprinted down the stairs, the sound of pursuit echoing behind them. On the 15th floor, a side door burst open. Daniel's old friend, the night guard Miller's cousin, stood there holding an elevator keycard. This way. Aaron stared in shock. Who sent you? He tossed her a folded note. From Keller. He knows Mason's tracking you. He says, get to the safe house. They piled into a service elevator. The doors closed, just as another gunshot hit the frame. The car descended into darkness. Olivia leaned against the wall, trembling. He killed her. He killed everyone. Aaron took her hand. Not everyone. Not us. Not yet. When the doors opened again, they were in a dim underground garage. A lone sedan waited with its engine running. A phone buzzed on the dashboard. Aaron picked it up. A text flashed across the screen. Bring the recording to me before midnight. Keller can't protect you anymore. M.H. Olivia stared at the message, fury burning through her fear. He thinks he can still scare me. Aaron looked at her, almost smiling. Then let's give him something new to fear. They drove into the rainy night, the city lights glinting off the windshield. Behind them, smoke rose faintly from Nora's office, the evidence of yet another life Mason had erased. But this time, the file hadn't died with her. This time, the truth was coming for him. Rain lashed against the glass walls of the Plaza Hotel as Olivia Carter stepped through its revolving doors. Her coat clung to her shoulders, dripping from the downpour outside. The grand lobby glittered with chandeliers and polished marble. But tonight it felt like a battlefield. This was where Mason Hale was hosting his charity gala, the same man who had destroyed her life now parading as Manhattan's savior. Beside her, Aaron Walsh adjusted the wire hidden under her blazer. You're sure about this? Olivia nodded. It's the only way to make him confess. They had a plan: confront Mason in public, record his arrogance, and make him admit what he'd done. Aaron had already sent Keller copies of Nora's audio and the decrypted files. This was the final act, the moment Mason's mask would shatter. Inside the ballroom, a string quartet played beneath crystal chandeliers. Men in tuxedos and women in gowns raised glasses of champagne, unaware of the war about to unfold. Mason stood at the center, charming as ever, shaking hands with city officials and smiling for cameras. When his gaze met Olivia's across the room, the music seemed to fade. His expression didn't change, but a flicker of surprise passed through his eyes, followed by amusement. Ah, he said when she approached. The grieving wife. I wasn't sure you'd be brave enough to show your face. Olivia forced a brittle smile. Brave enough to show yours. He laughed softly, stepping closer. You should be careful, my dear. People might think you're obsessed. Aaron appeared at her side. Funny, coming from a man who's been stalking every survivor who could ruin him. Par? Mason's grin tightened. Miss Walsh, I thought your career was over. It was, she said coldly. Until you resurrected it by killing everyone who crossed you. He chuckled, shaking his head. Such dramatic words. But where's your proof this time? Olivia took a deep breath, lowering her voice so only he could hear. In your own words, Mason. Remember the phone calls you made to Nora? The transfers to Alana? We have everything. For a second, the perfect mask cracked. You're bluffing. Treble. She leaned in. Then sue me. His eyes darkened. You don't understand how this city works. Money writes the truth. Not tonight, Aaron said. She tapped her earpiece. Keller's listening. Mason froze. Around them, applause erupted as a host took the stage to introduce him for the evening's keynote speech. He glanced toward the crowd, then back at Olivia, voice low and venomous. "If you ruin this for me, I'll bury you next to the others." "Then start digging," she whispered. As he turned toward the stage, Erin subtly raised her phone, streaming live to a hidden link Keller had set up. Mason took the microphone, smiling for the cameras. "Ladies and gentlemen, tonight is about redemption." His words flowed, smooth as always, but Olivia could see the tension in his jaw. Erin whispered, "He knows he's trapped," and then his phone buzzed. He glanced down, face blanching. The headline on the screen, "Exclusive. Audio leaks reveal Mason Hale, paid to cover assault and murder." The ballroom erupted. Guests gasped. Reporters rushed forward. Flashes burst like lightning. Olivia stepped back as Mason shouted over the chaos, "Those tapes are fake. I'm being framed." Erin's voice was calm. "Keep talking, Mason. The more you deny, the deeper you dig." Security swarmed the stage as Keller's agents entered through the side doors, badges flashing. Mason turned, desperate, grabbing the mic. "You think this ends me? You have no idea who you're dealing with." But for the first time, the room wasn't listening. Olivia met his eyes, her voice steady and cold. "The world finally sees you for what you are." And as Keller's men moved in, Mason Hale's empire began to crumble in front of Manhattan's elite. Chaos consumed the ballroom. The string quartet had stopped mid-note, the scent of champagne mixing with panic and sweat. Guests backed away from the stage as Mason Hale, once the untouchable billionaire, shouted into dead microphones. His voice cracked under the weight of desperation. "Those recordings are fabricated," he barked. "Someone hacked my servers." But the screens behind him betrayed him. Keller's team had projected the evidence live. Email chains, money transfers, even his voice ordering Nora Stein to keep her quiet. Gasps rippled through the crowd as the truth unfolded in glowing blue text. Cameras flashed. Reporters screamed questions. "Did you pay to cover up a death? Did you bribe federal agents?" Mason turned to Olivia, rage burning in his eyes. "You think you've won? You're nothing without me." Olivia stood firm. "I was nothing because of you." Keller's agents swarmed the stage, surrounding him. "Mason Hale, you're under arrest for obstruction of justice, witness intimidation, and conspiracy to commit homicide." The room erupted again, half disbelief, half satisfaction. A few of Mason's board members slipped quietly toward the exits, their loyalty evaporating as fast as the champagne bubbles in their glasses. Mason tried to steady his voice, glancing toward Keller. "You can't arrest me here. This is private property." Keller smirked. "Not when you've just turned it into a crime scene." Two agents grabbed Mason's arms. He fought, jerking violently. "Get your hands off me. I built this city. I own every one of you." "Harren." Olivia watched, trembling not with fear, but release. Years of silence, humiliation, and grief burned away as she met his eyes for the last time. "No, Mason," she said softly. "You never owned me." Reporters swarmed forward as he was handcuffed, shouting, "Mr. Hale, what about your wife's miscarriage?" He turned toward the cameras, shouting, "She lied. She's mentally unstable." Olivia felt her stomach twist. Keller saw the flicker in her face and whispered, "You don't have to say anything, Johnable." But she did. She stepped forward, voice clear and strong. "You're right, Mason. I was unstable. Because of you. Because I lived every day afraid of what you'd do next. But I'm not afraid anymore." The room went silent. The reporters turned to her, cameras flashing like lightning. She continued, her tone steady. "He pushed me. He killed our child. And now the world finally knows who he really is." The applause started softly from Erin, then Keller, then the audience. The sound grew, filling the ballroom like thunder. For the first time, Mason looked small. He was led away, face pale, tie crooked, his perfect world collapsing around him. Outside, his fleet of luxury cars sat abandoned. By morning, headlines would label him the fallen king of Park Avenue. As Keller and Erin guided Olivia outside, the city lights of Fifth Avenue sparkled through the rain. Reporters chased them, shouting for comment, but Keller blocked the path. "We'll handle the rest. You're safe now." Olivia stopped on the steps of the plaza and looked up at the sky. For months, she had seen only storm clouds. Tonight, for the first time, she saw the faintest break, a sliver of peace. Aaron squeezed her hand. "You did it." Olivia shook her head. "We did it. For Alana. For Nora. For everyone he tried to silence." In the distance, police sirens wailed, escorting Mason away. Somewhere inside that car, the man who once believed himself untouchable now faced the one thing money couldn't buy: justice. Olivia turned toward Daniel, who had been released earlier, standing by the curb with a tired smile. He opened his arms, and she fell into them, sobbing. He whispered, "It's over. Live. You're free." But even as she clung to him, she knew their story wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about rebirth. 3 days after the arrest, Manhattan wore a strange kind of silence. Newspapers still blared Mason Hale's face across their front pages. Billionaire behind bars. Empire collapses overnight. News anchors dissected his crimes. Analysts debated his downfall. And social media celebrated Olivia Carter as the woman who brought him to his knees. But Olivia didn't feel victorious. She felt hollow. She sat in a quiet cafe near Bryant Park, the same spot where Mason once took her on their first date. The city outside bustled with normal life couples holding hands, kids chasing pigeons, but she sat motionless, staring at her untouched latte. Across the table, Daniel leaned forward. "You did it, Liv. He's facing 30 years. You should be proud." Her voice was soft. "I lost everything before I got here." He reached for her hand. "Then maybe now's your chance to build something new." 5. Before she could answer, Aaron Walsh entered, looking sharper than ever in a navy trench coat. She dropped a file on the table. "It's official. The state's building a criminal case, 5 charges, airtight." Mason's lawyers tried to cut a deal, but Keller rejected it. Olivia looked up. "He'll actually go to prison?" Aaron smiled faintly. "Rikers first. Then federal custody. The mighty Mason Hale is just inmate number A3225 now." Daniel exhaled, relief washing over him. "And the board?" "Resigned. Every one of them." His company's stocks crashed 40% overnight. The SEC is investigating offshore accounts. It's a domino effect. Aaron's tone softened. "You both should stay low for a while. You're heroes to the public, but dangerous to whoever's still loyal to him." Olivia nodded absently. She wasn't thinking about danger. She was thinking about the baby she never got to hold. Aaron excused herself after a call from Keller, leaving the siblings alone. Daniel studied his sister carefully. "You're still seeing him in your head, aren't you?" Olivia's eyes filled with quiet tears. "Every time I close my eyes. The sound, the blood, the look on his face. Even now, I feel like he's watching me." Daniel squeezed her hand. "He can't hurt you anymore." She looked out the window, voice trembling. "But he did. And I let him, for so long." Daniel hesitated. "You didn't let him. He fooled everyone." She smiled weakly. "He didn't fool you." Heavy. They left the cafe together, walking past newsstands plastered with Mason's fall. Some passers-by whispered, recognizing Olivia. A few even smiled at her, nodding in quiet respect. For the first time, she didn't lower her head. That night, she returned to the small apartment she and Daniel had once used to hide. It was still cluttered with papers and empty coffee cups. But in the corner sat a box from the hospital, her sonogram, a tiny blanket, and a letter Mason never let her mail to Daniel. She unfolded it now, tears blurring the ink. It read, "If anything happens to me, tell my brother I'm sorry for believing a man who only loved power." Her sobs came quietly, shoulders shaking. Then her phone buzzed. A text from Aaron. He cracked. Keller just called. Mason confessed to everything. "It's over, Liv. It's truly over." Olivia sank to the floor, crying harder, but this time it wasn't pain, it was release. Outside, the city lights shimmered across the rain-soaked streets. The wind carried faint echoes of laughter and car horns, the hum of a city moving on. She looked up at the skyline towers that once symbolized Mason's dominance now glowed like beacons of freedom. For the first time in years, Olivia Carter breathed without fear. And somewhere behind prison walls, Mason Hale screamed her name into the dark. Realizing too late, she had taken everything he thought could never be taken. Control. 2 weeks passed. The world had moved on, but Olivia Carter hadn't. Her name trended less every day. The tabloids turned their gaze to the next scandal, and Mason Hale's trial slipped from the headlines like yesterday's storm. But inside Olivia's small apartment overlooking Central Park, the echoes still lived his voice, his threats, his ghost. She sat by the window, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the skyline. The air smelled faintly of rain and freedom, yet she couldn't shake the unease in her chest. Daniel entered quietly, holding 2 mugs of coffee. "You didn't sleep again?" She smiled weakly. "How could I? Every time I close my eyes, I see him standing there, smiling like he's already won." Daniel sat beside her. "He's locked away, Liv. Rikers won't let him near daylight, much less you." She shook her head. "Men like him don't stay buried. He had money everywhere. Friends everywhere." He sighed. "Not anymore." Before she could answer, there was a knock at the door. Daniel tensed, motioning for her to stay back. He opened it slowly and found Erin Walsh, holding a thick manila folder. "Good morning," Erin said. Her expression was grave. "I just came from Keller's office. There's something you both need to see." They sat around the small kitchen table as Erin spread out a series of photos, bank receipts, offshore ledgers, letters signed with initials M.H. "These accounts were found yesterday in the Cayman Islands," she said. "Millions hidden under fake charities." Mason was transferring money right up until the week of his arrest. Daniel frowned. "So he was preparing for this?" "Yes," Erin replied. "But here's the twist. Someone's still moving funds from those accounts. From inside prison." Olivia's heart skipped. "That's impossible." "Unless," Erin said, "he has people on the inside." Silence filled the room. Daniel broke it. "Are you saying he's planning something?" Erin nodded slowly. "Maybe revenge. Maybe escape. Keller's trying to tighten security, but Mason still has influence. We can't underestimate him." Olivia felt a chill crawl up her spine. "He's never going to stop." Erin reached across the table. "That's why you can't live waiting for the next attack. You need to start living again, Olivia. Go back to work, travel. Don't let him keep your life hostage." Olivia stared at her for a long time, then nodded. "You're right. I've spent years surviving. I don't even remember what living feels like." Hi. Later that afternoon, she went for a walk through Central Park. The city was alive with sunlight, joggers, and children laughing near the fountain. She sat on a bench, watching them, letting the sound of life seep back into her bones. A man sat beside her, a stranger in a charcoal coat. He smiled politely. "Beautiful day, isn't it?" Olivia nodded, distracted. "Miss Carter," he said softly, "Mr. Hale sends his regards." Her blood ran cold. "What did you just say?" He stood, slipping a small envelope onto the bench. "He says freedom has a price." Then he walked away, vanishing into the crowd. Olivia's hands trembled as she opened the envelope. Inside was a single Polaroid. A photo of Daniel at a coffee shop that morning, and a handwritten note. "You took everything from me. Now I'll take everything from you." Her breath hitched. She looked around wildly, searching the faces in the park. Every shadow seemed to move closer. When Daniel called moments later, her voice shook. "Danny, listen to me, go home. Now." "Why, what's wrong?" She swallowed hard. "He's not done." And somewhere behind prison walls, Mason Hale smiled in the dark, whispering, "Freedom isn't the same as safety." The message burned in Olivia Carter's trembling hands. The Polaroid was real. Daniel, sitting at the same cafe, unaware someone had been close enough to take his picture. Across the glossy surface, Mason's words bled in jagged ink. "Now I'll take everything from you." Olivia's heart raced as she dialed Daniel. The line rang twice before his voice came through, calm but alert. "Liv? I'm already heading home." "What's going on?" "Someone followed you," she whispered. "I got a photo of you, from this morning." He said Mason sent it. Daniel paused. "That's impossible. He's in prison." "Prison doesn't mean powerless," she snapped. "He's using people on the outside." "Pime." There was silence. Then Daniel's tone changed, lower, protective. Where are you? In the park, by the fountain. Stay there, I'm on my way. The call cut out. Olivia looked around. Every face seemed like a threat, every movement a shadow. Her pulse thundered in her ears. She stuffed the photo into her coat pocket and started walking toward the exit, her breath fogging in the cold air. As she reached the street, a black sedan slowed beside her. The window rolled down halfway. A man's voice, calm, professional, called out, "Ms. Carter?" "FBI. Agent Keller sent us." "Get in." Her instincts screamed, "Show me ID." The man flashed a badge too quickly. Something felt wrong. She stepped back, shaking her head. No. Before she could move, another door opened behind her. Hands grabbed her arms. "You shouldn't have run, Olivia," a voice hissed. She kicked hard, breaking free, bolting down the street. Horns blared as she darted between cars. Her lungs burned, her vision blurring from fear. She turned a corner straight into Daniel. He caught her shoulders, eyes wide. Hey, it's me. What happened?" "They tried to take me," said Keller sent them. Daniel looked past her. The sedan was gone. "They're gone for now. Come on, we need to get somewhere safe." They ducked into a subway entrance, blending into the crowd. On the moving train, Olivia clutched Daniel's sleeve. "He's never going to stop, is he?" Daniel exhaled. "He's desperate. His empire's gone. His power's gone. All he has left is revenge, but he can't win if we stay smart." Olivia stared out the window as the tunnel lights flickered past. "I don't want to live my life hiding." He smiled faintly. "Then let's end it." That night, they met Erin at her apartment. Keller was already there, pacing. He looked exhausted, his tie loose, eyes shadowed. "We've traced the movement of Hale's offshore accounts. Someone inside the prison system is funneling messages for him. A guard named Travis Cole, he's been on Hale's payroll for years." Erin crossed her arms. "So arrest him." Keller grimaced. "We can't yet. We need evidence of his involvement in these new threats. Otherwise, Hale's defense will claim this is all paranoia." Olivia slammed her hand on the table. "He sent men after me." Keller met her eyes. "And I believe you. That's why I want to use it. We can bait him, force his people to act on record." Daniel frowned. "You're saying use my sister as bait?" "It's the only way," Keller said. Erin placed a hand on Olivia's arm. "You don't have to do this." Olivia's voice was quiet, steady. "Yes, I do. I won't run anymore." She looked around the room, the people who had risked everything for her, and for the first time, she felt something stronger than fear, resolve. "If Mason Hale wants to finish this," she said, "then let's give him his finale. Hein too." Keller nodded. "We'll set it up tomorrow." Outside, the storm had returned, lightning flashing across the Manhattan skyline. And in a dim prison cell miles away, Mason Hale watched the rain through narrow bars, a smirk curling his lips. Because what Olivia didn't know was that the trap was already waiting for her. The next evening, Manhattan pulsed with restless energy. Thunder rolled over the skyline as Olivia Carter stood in front of a mirror, adjusting the small transmitter hidden beneath her blouse. Her reflection looked calm, but her pulse betrayed her rapid, trembling, alive. Agent Keller paced nearby, headset on. "We'll be monitoring everything. You don't engage unless we tell you. Understood?" Olivia nodded. "He'll send someone. He won't be able to resist." Daniel stepped closer, worry etched deep into his face. "You don't have to do this, Liv. Let Keller handle it." She met his eyes. "He took everything from me, Danny. This is my choice." Erin Walsh stood at the laptop, tracking signals. The line's secure. "We've traced Hale's communications through a disposable phone he's coordinating from inside. Once his men contact you, we'll intercept." Outside, rain streaked across the windows like thin glass veins. Keller checked his watch. "They'll come within the hour. Stay sharp." The bait was simple. An email Olivia had sent from a public terminal earlier that day. "I have the last set of files. Meet me alone. 9 p.m. Pier 17. Now, the waiting began. By 8:45, the team took positions around the pier. Erin and Keller stayed in an unmarked van, while Daniel lingered behind a stack of shipping crates, eyes locked on his sister. Olivia stood beneath a flickering street lamp, the East River roaring behind her, the city's skyline gleaming like a blade. Every creak of the dock made her heart skip. The wind smelled of metal and salt. Then, headlights. A black SUV rolled to a stop 50 yards away. Two men stepped out, silhouettes sharp against the rain. One spoke into a headset. "Target acquired." Olivia didn't move. "You're late," she said, her voice steady despite the fear crawling through her veins. The taller man approached, smirking. "Mr. Hale sends his regards." She tilted her head. "Tell him I'm not scared anymore." "One. Good," he said. "You won't feel anything soon." He reached inside his jacket. "Now." Keller's voice roared through the comms. Spotlights flared. Agents burst from behind the containers, weapons drawn. The men spun, startled, firing wildly as Keller's team closed in. The taller man grabbed Olivia, pressing a gun to her ribs. "Drop it," Keller shouted. Rain hammered down. Olivia could feel the barrel against her skin, her heartbeat pounding in her ears. Then, from the shadows, Daniel moved fast and silent. He grabbed a loose pipe and swung hard. The man fell, the gun skidding across the wet wood. Shots cracked through the air. Aaron ducked behind a crate, returning fire. One agent went down, screaming. When the chaos cleared, both attackers were subdued. Keller stormed forward, ripping off their earpieces. "Trace the call," he ordered. "Now." Erin's fingers flew across her laptop. "Got it. Source Rikers Island. It's coming from Hale's cell." Keller's eyes widened. He's orchestrating this live. Back at the prison, guards rushed into Mason Hale's cell. He sat calmly on his cot, phone still warm in his hand. "I was just checking in on an old friend," he said with a smile. The guards dragged him out, shouting. But for the first time, the smile faded. He saw Olivia's face on the TV mounted in the hallway, alive, defiant, victorious. Later, at the pier, Olivia sat wrapped in a blanket, trembling from cold and adrenaline. Daniel crouched beside her. "It's over, Liv." She shook her head. "No. It's over when he admits it." As if on cue, Keller's phone buzzed. It was the warden. Keller answered, eyes widening. He confessed, everything. The assaults, the payoffs, the threats. Olivia's breath caught. Keller looked at her with a rare smile. "You won." Rain poured harder, but she didn't move. She just looked up at the city lights and whispered, "No, we won." "Show?" And in a cell miles away, Mason Hale finally realized the woman he tried to destroy had become the storm that ended him. 1 month later, Manhattan was quiet again. The tabloids had moved on, the trial was over, and Mason Hale was sentenced to 40 years in federal prison. His empire had collapsed, his company dissolved, his name scrubbed from the city's skyline. But for Olivia Carter, peace didn't come overnight. She stood by the East River one morning, the same pier where everything ended. The winter wind cut through her coat, but she stayed, watching the sunrise bloom over the Manhattan skyline. The golden light touched the water, soft and endless like a promise she could finally believe in. Daniel walked up behind her, holding 2 coffees. "You keep coming here," he said gently. "It's where I stopped being afraid," she replied. "And where I started living again." He handed her the cup. "You could have left New York, started fresh somewhere else." She smiled faintly. "Running doesn't heal anything. Facing it does." Daniel nodded. "You sound like Dad." They laughed quietly, the kind of laugh that only comes after surviving hell. Across the city, in a small courtroom, Erin Walsh was giving a press statement beside Agent Keller. Cameras flashed as she said, "This case wasn't just about wealth or power, it was about truth. And thanks to Olivia Carter's courage, truth won." When the broadcast ended, Keller turned to Erin. "You did good." "So did she," Erin said softly. "She gave women everywhere a voice." Meanwhile, Olivia visited a bookstore on 5th Avenue, the same one she used to pass every morning when life was simpler. The shelves smelled of paper and peace. She stopped at the counter, noticing a new book on display. Rise Again, Stories of Women Who Survived. Erin had written the foreword, and Olivia's story filled the final chapter. She smiled, tracing her fingers across the cover. The clerk, recognizing her, whispered, "That story, it saved my sister." Olivia's throat tightened. "It saved me too." Outside, the city hummed with life again. She walked through Central Park, where snow was beginning to fall, light as confetti. Daniel met her on a bench beneath the bare trees, holding an envelope. "From Keller," he said. Inside was a letter from the prison. Mason's handwriting cold, elegant, controlled. "You think you won. But even in defeat, I live in your memory. You'll never be free of me." Olivia read it once, then tore it into pieces. "He's wrong," she said simply. The wind carried the fragments away, scattering them over the snow like ash. Daniel smiled. "That's my sister." Later that night, Olivia returned home to her small apartment overlooking the park. She lit a single candle on the windowsill, the same one she'd once burned during sleepless nights of fear. Only this time, it wasn't for protection. It was for peace. As she sipped tea and looked out over the glittering skyline, her phone buzzed. A message from Aaron. "He's been transferred. Maximum security. No parole. You're finally free." Olivia closed her eyes, letting the relief wash over her. In her mind, she saw her child, the one she'd lost, smiling in the glow of dawn. "We're okay now," she whispered. "We made it." The candle flickered as if in answer. Outside, the city that once hid her pain now carried her story like a heartbeat. Women who had once been silent began to speak, inspired by her courage. And in every whispered, "Thank you," Olivia felt a piece of her soul stitched back together. As the first light of morning spread across the park, she whispered to herself, "Justice doesn't erase the scars, but it gives them meaning." And when the sun finally rose over Manhattan, Olivia Carter stood tall not as a victim, but as the woman who turned her tragedy into truth. So that's it, my friends. The story finally comes to an end. And if you're still here with me right now, it means something in Olivia's journey has touched your heart in its own quiet way. Maybe it reminded you of your own battles, or maybe it whispered a truth you'd forgotten, that no matter how dark life gets, you still have the power to begin again. Like the Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The obstacle is the way. Every pain, every betrayal, every loss can become the path toward strength and peace." Olivia's story isn't just about revenge. It's about healing, reclaiming your worth, and realizing that justice begins the moment you stop being afraid. So tonight, take a breath. Whatever storm you're walking through, remember, you can rise from it. You can rebuild. You can choose peace. And if this story stirred something in you, leave a like, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Because together, we'll keep telling stories that remind us, even in the darkest nights, there's always a dawn waiting to rise.